For this tissue holder, I will be using cutaway stabilizer, my 5x7 hoop, paint or masking tape, scissors, my 2 threads, the coloured one being for the letter that I'm going to put on. I'm using an invisible zip because I promised to show how to do an invisible zip version of these in the hoop projects, and my fabrics and batting cut to size. First off, you're going to hoop your stabilizer. Then pop it in your machine, and you're going to stitch the outline for the back. Next, you're going to add your batting, pellon, whatever you're using, in my case felt, over the guideline, and also your fabric for the back. Then you pop it back in your machine and you'll stitch the outline, and that's round number 2. Next is the stippling for round number 3. If you were going to add your own embroidery to this, now is the time that you would do it. For now, I'm going to remove the hoop from my machine. You can now remove the back from your hoop, but don't cut away anything as yet. So I'm just going to pop that aside and hoop the stabilizer for the front now. Okay, then you want to pop it back in your machine and stitch the outline for the casing and the zip. Next, you're going to place your zip along the line in the middle of the outline, and you want your metal pieces, if possible, outside of the stitch line, well away from where your machine is going to stitch. So and you're going to tape the zip in place so it doesn't move while it's being stitched. And I'm just going to put a little piece over the metal piece just to keep it out of the way so it doesn't flop forward and catch on anything. Just like that. Next, you're going to pop it back into your machine and you're going to stitch round 2 and 3, which is going to attach both sides of the zip to the stabilizer. Next, you're going to attach the lining. So you're going to turn your hoop over and place your fabric, this is a piece of the 7x4, over the left hand side of the zipper line, like so. Let me just turn this round. And you want to allow 1/4 inch, so you want the raw edge 1/4 inch over that top line there. And you're just going to tape it in place so that it can't move. Then you're going to turn it over and you're going to place a piece of your top fabric face down. This time it's going to come over the right hand side of the zipper, again by 1/4 inch, like so, and tape it in place. Now you're going to pop it back into your machine and stitch round number 4, which will stitch both of the pieces of fabric in place. Next you're going to remove the tape and you're going to fold your fabric back. Now if you're doing an invisible seam, an invisible zip, you want to make sure that this folds back but still covers the zip opening, and then just give it a really good creasing there. Like so. Then when you open that out, you've got a nice crease to go by. You're going to place your batting, in my case a piece of felt, in there up to that crease line, and then fold this back like so, and tape it down. Then you can pop it in your machine and stitch round number 5. So now I'm going to stitch round number 5 and round number 6, which is the stippling. I've changed my thread to purple for the decorative stitching that's going to go along the edge of the zip. Next, if you're going to put the initial on, you will stitch round 8. If not, you will skip this stitch. You're now going to flip your hoop over and remove the tape from the back. And this side is going to flip over here now, and you're going to tape it down. And that just holds that out of the way while we do the opposite side, and we're going to do exactly the same again, repeat the same process. So take the lining, and we want the raw edge over this side of that line there by about 1/4 of an inch, and stick that down. Like so. Flip it over, and you're going to do exactly the same with your front piece. So fabric down and raw edge to this side of the zip and over by about 1/4 of an inch, then tape it down. So next you're going to pop it back into your machine and stitch round number 9, which will fasten the 2 pieces of fabric to the stabilizer. I've changed my thread back to white for this, as I did before, because the only purple that I've got is the decorative stitching on this one. So you need to change it back to the colour that you started with. So next, remove your tape. I've still left the tape holding the zip. I generally leave that to the last minute so that nothing catches or gets in the way. But all the rest of the tape I remove. Okay. And you're going to do exactly the same thing as you did last time. Take your batting and you're going to place it here, but because I'm doing an invisible zip here, I'm going to make sure that I crease this hard up against the edge of the fabric the other side. And then I will place my batting, in my case felt, hard up against that crease, fold it over and stick it down. Oops. Be careful that you don't tug when you stick it down, otherwise you're going to displace the edge so that it no longer marries up. Okay, so I'm now going to pop that back in my machine. This time you're going to stitch round number 10, which is going to secure that down. I've just added a little bit of tape along the zip line just to keep it nice and closed while it's stitching, so it doesn't pull over and end up gaping along here. So next you're going to stitch round number 11, which is the stippling. You're next going to change your thread back to the colour that you're using for your decorative stitching. I've made sure that the tape that I've got along the zip opening here is out the way of where it's going to stitch the decorative stitching. So now stitch round number 12. I'm going to remove the tape off of the zip line here and anything in the way of the fabrics. And I can now remove the tape covering the zip too. And I'm just going to turn this over. You need to remove the tape from the back. And open this out. Then tape it down as you did for the other piece, just so that it holds it open. And you want to keep your tape out the way of the stitch line so that it doesn't stitch through it. Okay, so turn that back over. Next is the really important piece. Your zipper, you need to pull it down, because if you don't, you're not going to get into your tissue holder once the backing's been added. So I'm pulling it down there. I don't want it too close to where I'm stitching, but I certainly need enough room to be able to get into there. And as mine's sort of a bit dangly there, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape down just to stop it knocking around while everything's being stitched. We can remove that afterwards. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to add is a little tag so that it can be, you can attach it to key ring or whatever. So I'm going to place that here and once again tape that down so that it doesn't move. And I'm putting a bit of tape to hold both ends down here, but that's obviously not going to get in the way because the fabric's going to go over the top here, so the tape's well out the way of the fabric. I'm just going to trim away from the back that we made earlier the stabilizer so that I can see what I'm doing. And now we're going to place this face down over the top of the front, and we need to align this line of stitching with the edge of the stitching here as well. Now I found that the easiest way to do this, in all honesty, is to put a pin through the corner and then line it up to the stitching of the front part, and then of course tape it in place. It just allows you to be quite accurate with your placement. Turn that round, and the same here. Let's get some tape. And this side here. And you want to keep your tape well out of the way of the stitch line, because it's going to not only stitch a straight line all the way around to hold it down, but it's also going to do a zigzag as well. So in hindsight, maybe it's better to put the tape on the edges there so that it can't move. I think that should be out of the way now. Okay, so now pop it into your machine and stitch round number 13, which is the final stitching. Did you spot the not so deliberate mistake? Well, I forgot to add the lining on top of the back before I stitched it down. Doesn't matter, I can do round number 13 again, so I'm just going to lay my lining over the top of the outline. So here's round 13 for the second time. Okay, so that's all stitched now. I can remove any tape and stray thread ends, and same from the back. Okay, now we have to open up the zip part here in order to be able to turn it out the right way. Now, I've been bitten here before where I've cut through more than just the stabiliser, and it is literally just the stabiliser that you need to cut through. So I'm just going to create a little slit, just enough to get my scissors through, taking care not to cut through my zip as well. Yeah, I'm safe there. So now I can just insert my scissors and work my way around. You can neaten it up afterwards once you've removed it from the hoop. Of course, once you've got one side done, you can actually see where you're cutting as well, so it makes it a lot easier. Watch you don't nick the fabric at the sides of the lining. I'm just going to use my unstitcher there just to run that along past that zip because it's in the way. Okay, that's nice and neat. I'm going to push my zip back if I possibly can, a little bit further in a minute. Right, I can now remove it from the hoop. Okay. And I've got a little bit of tape holding the end down. I've just removed that. I should have enough room to just wiggle that down a little bit. Okay. I now need to cut around the edge close to the stitching, taking care not to cut the actual stitching itself. A good pair of fabric scissors are worth their weight in gold for this. straight through the zip. Okay, just remove these couple of threads here that are just untidy, and I can now turn it out the right way, and you need to really push hard into those corners to get them all nice and neat. That's a bit of tape holding down the tab there. Just going to make sure I push those well out. Okay. I'm now going to press that so that it lays nice and flat. And there you have it, one tissue holder. I hope you enjoyed this and found it useful. If you did, give me a thumbs up please. And don't forget to subscribe to be notified of any new stitch alongs as they are published. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you will join me again soon.